Denise Gwen, reading aloud for you from my novel, The Heartbalm Effect, Book 1 of The Medicine Women of Alaska, Chapter 4. Rachel followed Dr. Livingston into the exam room on tenterhooks, careful to nod with approval. By this point, considering all the damage she'd done, the room could have been a hovel, and she would have praised it to the heavens above. To her relief, the room resembled a typical exam room in any competent doctor's practice. The room boasted freshly painted white walls. It'd been recent, she smelled the paint. An examination table with a sheet of sterile paper covering it, a sink, one chair, one stool for the doctor to sit on, a Dixie cup container attached to the wall next to the sink, and a wicker basket stuffed full of children's books. We do what we can to make the kids as comfortable as possible. I see, she nodded. It's a little bit too sterile in here for my taste, especially in an exam room devoted to the care of children. All the children's exam rooms are like this, and in the adult wing, well, it's more or less the same. Come on, I'll show you. Paul walked her back down the children's pediatric wing, swung around the nurse's station, and headed up the adult wing, wondering why he had such extraordinary ill luck in finding and keeping residents. And this young female doctor would soon join the growing list of those who'd abandon the clinic the moment their residencies ended. As she strode along beside him, he caught a quick and furtive glance at a lacy bra. Oh my goodness! Peeking out from the décolletage of her silk blouse and under her crisp white lab coat. He stifled a groan at the sight of her lovely breasts, half hidden, half exposed through the gap in the blouse, and with the assistance of the bra that really didn't cover very much. He saw himself stepping out of a shower with a towel wrapped around his waist. As he walked into the bedroom, he saw Dr. Lavange sitting up in bed, nude to the waist, beautiful, her breasts fully exposed, beckoning him to join her between the sheets. The sensation of his body next to hers, their skin touching, their two bodies coming together. Whoa! I'm really letting my imagination run wild here. It's been a long time since I've had sex with anyone, let alone a woman as beautiful as Dr. Lavange. His thoughts drifted, and he saw her in another moment. In this one, he gazed at her as she stood before him, fully nude, in front of the fireplace in his cabin. A fire roared in the grate, a fire equal to the flames in his heart. He longed to study her, to run his hands along every toned muscle and down every curve. Oh, how he desired her. And with every passing moment he spent in her presence, he realized how amazed he was with her magnetism, her beauty, and her keen intelligence. Of medium height, slender, with her long strawberry blonde hair pulled back into a low ponytail, she struck him as the very essence of a modern, desirable woman. When she flashed her eyes at him, such as the moment when she made him look at her to beg his forgiveness, he'd been stricken to the core by her bright blue irises, punctuated by the sharp point of her pupils. Those blue eyes had pierced him to the quick when she gazed up at him to apologize for her snooty attitude and Despite his efforts to remain annoyed with her, he'd forgiven her the moment he saw those blue eyes filling with tears. He was halfway in love with her already, and he hadn't even finished the introductory tour of the clinic. Boy, was he ever in trouble. As he escorted her down the second hallway reserved for the adult patients and showed her a few of the patient examination rooms, he noticed something odd. He stopped and cocked his head, considering. "What's wrong?" she asked. "It just struck me how the adult examination rooms are essentially the same as the pediatric rooms." "Yes, I did notice how plain the pediatric rooms looked, but there are wicker baskets filled with children's books in the children's rooms. Whereas here," he gestured at the adult exam room they stood inside, "the only thing making this room look different is the lack of a basket filled with books. And the blood pressure cuff," she noted. "It's present in each of the adult rooms, but not in the pediatric rooms." She pointed to the blood pressure station mounted on the wall next to the examination table. "We use a portable blood pressure cuff in the pediatric rooms. It's in a drawer under the table." "I understand, but the pediatric rooms are, forgive me for saying this, rather lifeless and sterile." She inhaled sharply, as if suddenly fearful of giving offense, but he offered her a bland smile. "The blame for the lifeless aspect of the pediatric rooms can be laid squarely at my feet. I'm the one who ordered them painted white." "Well," she mused, "white is a nice, clean, spare color for that sterile, antiseptic look all little children love on their visit to the doctor," he added dryly. She chuckled, and he noticed a dimple in her right cheek. "If I were to happenstance one day take it upon myself to rectify the bland, sterile look to the pediatric rooms," she began with a sly smile, "would you perchance knock yourself out? Just don't expect me to handle a paintbrush." "Why not?" she asked, her blue eyes suddenly sparkling with merriment. "Are you afraid you're not up to the task?" Slightly taken aback, he realized she was flirting with him. Gently, lightly, humorously. Yes, indeed, she was definitely having a bit of fun with him. Quite a different young lady from the one he'd met not 30 minutes earlier. "Well, let's put it this way. I'm good with my hands, but I choose not to paint. I prefer to work with wood, cutting, sawing, and sanding. I'm not so keen on painting." "Ah, so you've got a hobby. Why don't you tell me about this hobby of yours?" And then a memory, a painful one, suffused his heart. "Anna used to tease me just like this, back when we were happy. But then the day came when she didn't want to tease me anymore. And that was also around the time she completely lost interest in me and in the clinic." Dr. Lavange must have noticed the sudden change in his demeanor, for the smile faded from her pretty lips and she gazed up anxiously at him. "Dr. Livingston, are you all right?" "Oh, I'm fine. Look, let's finish the tour, shall we? I've got mountains of work to do." "Fine," she said meekly, and followed him back toward the nurse's station. He wanted to apologize to her, explain his sudden coldness, but when he glanced back at her, the words died in his throat. Best not to say anything further. Best not to gain any further intimacy with the lovely young resident. best to keep one's focus on one's work and not on trivial, silly matters such as what flirtatious young women like to say to older, hermit-like men who thought it was perfectly fine to paint pediatric exam rooms a sterile and safe shade of white.